I can't come across as saying don't listen to your family doctor, but there is more room to maneuver if you find a primary care practitioner that is more wellness oriented.
73 years old. Mike actually has a 43-year-old metabolic age, right? And for those of you who don't know, again, 73-year-olds chronologically, but metabolically, how his body is performing and functioning at a basic, average 43-year-old.
What you're about to see is an in-depth interview with one of my most successful client transformations that I have ever had as a online fitness coach, right? His name is Michael Seretney, 73 years old, an adult practitioner, college professor, and neurodiagnostics company owner and founder, right? Again, at the age of 73, he is not allowing his age or anything else to limit his success in everything that he does. And he has done some amazing things working with me for the last 2 years. And you're probably thinking 2 years working with the same fitness coach, that's crazy, right? But you'll see exactly why he's been working with me for so long, and you'll see exactly the type of person that Michael is. So without further ado, let's get to the full in-depth interview with Michael.
This is my client, Michael, and today we're going to be doing a little bit of an interview with him. So first off, Mike, a little introduction if you want to do that, and just a little bit of your background and current things that you're doing right now professionally and personally, stuff like that, man.
All right. My name is Mike. On campus, I'm known as Doc Mike. And I kind of live in two professional worlds. For the last 38 years, I've been a healthcare practitioner, and I have a background in neuroscience and medical training in the branch of medicine called neurology. I work both with children and adolescents and adults. The other side of my professional life is my teaching career, and I've actually done that longer than 38 years. The two kind of fit together and feed off of each other. And that's where I find meaning day to day.
Exactly. Yeah. So, 73 years old, which is just like that proves to me every day that that's just a number, right? It's actually meaningless. And again, you prove that to me every day. But 73 years old, as you just said, primarily an adult practitioner, a professor, and a neurodiagnostics company owner. So you're doing it all, man. Probably, less than 1% of other people your age have the capacity to even do, right? And so, I mean, even like health and performance and all that stuff aside for right now, I just want to talk about your ambition as a person. Like, why do you even continue to do all of those amazing things that you do every day? What keeps you going, man?
Impact, and this is jumping ahead
Yeah.
to some extent, but no, it's actually, this is what I find meaningful, is that you can, with the proper guidance, with the proper education, with the proper personality traits,
Yeah.
you can move towards something that has a more meaningful impact, provides a better day-to-day life for the people that you work with, and hopefully in some cases provides them with a future. I just find it tremendously gratifying to teach each of the new generations with the challenges that they present, how to pass on this gift that I've had through my education, through my experience. On the medical side, that's even more a mystery to me, that how I found a path that has become gratifying enough and reinforces itself and allows me to help others. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's powerful. It's impact, like you said. That's just the one
Yeah.
word that comes to my mind is impact. And I've done a lot of videos and explained it to you as well as all other clients in legacy. Like the impact is the most important part. At the end of the day, the money, it's not that important, right? It's how much impact you can put on someone else's life through what you do and through what you love to do, right? And so that makes total sense. So again, doing some absolutely amazing things at 73 years old. Just to give everyone some current stats right now, Mike is 182 pounds, 6 feet tall, 8.8% body fat, which is, I'm not lying here. This is 100%, true facts. And still killing your goals professionally, of course, while personally. So I just wanted to ask, how is life different now than it was before we started working together, if that makes sense, on a general scale. And we'll obviously, get a little bit more into it.
Well, the truth is, if you look over the last 2 years through the integration or the progressions of you offering services, from being tied down to just a website and that kind of contact to this where you do full face-to-face and internet-based services, it really has been night and day. We just went through a pandemic in this country. That was the original origin, and it feels like so long ago that brought you and I together. Mm-hmm. But the truth is that was a hammering. It was a mental stress. It was a phenomenon. I lost colleagues. I lost patients. For a while, I lost me, and that's how I found you. The rest has kind of been history. We set an initial goal. And that was blown away in almost short order, which was just phenomenal. And it was like a new horizon was there. Okay. And through this, it's the only way is it's just like a medical model. It's kind of like recovery. When you start taking the blinders away, I had been in the trenches, and that's what we call them, for so long, and trying to deal with this thing that I had always thought I had an adequate education and experience, but it didn't even begin to help us deal with the patient loads, the demands, the dangerous environment, everything under the sun. My point is when we started to remove what was blinding me from that situation, okay, progress came. But what was more important is a whole new horizon came, because we were making a new set of goals within about 6 to 8 months. And I had walked into this saying, all I want to do is get unburned out and get back to my old habits. I want to go back to the gym. I hid nothing about, I'm a gym rat. I've always have been. And I think that serves me well, both on the teaching side and on the medical side. So I can't emphasize enough. The difference has been night and day. Yeah. It's just at one point, and this is one of the things I was really the happiest about, I got to the point in terms of my mental outlook and my emotional outlook. I know I sent you a message that said, you put the wind back in my sails. And that's the truth. And that ties back to what you're doing has an impact. And it ties back to me, longer than you've been alive, kid, to what I've been doing by trying to prepare, not to make many copies of me, but to make students that can deal with things that I've had to deal with and still have the energy, have the determination, have the mindset to put a hand out and offer it to somebody else, whether that be in wellness, in healing, in whatever their professions turn out to be.
Right.
And that ties in the largest sense with your key term, legacy. That's what we're doing, is we're creating a generation that can look beyond the negatives and put a hand out and show people a positive route. And you've chosen wellness as that avenue. It's kind of obvious to me that I am. Mm-hmm. And,
You've explained that better than I could, right? Yeah, my business is called Legacy Fitness Coaching, right? And I chose the word legacy for a reason. It's not like I just thought of it. I mean, of course I thought of it one day, but I was like, that's perfect. Exactly what I want to be known for. And how I want to do this whole entrepreneurship business thing, right? It's not just simply getting clients a six pack, right? It's about legacy, how much knowledge and information I have and what I've gained over the last, 6-7 years of my own journey, and now instilling it into you as well as every other client. That's me passing on my legacy, right? Because then what you just said, the knowledge that I sort of give you, then you start to give it to somebody else, and it permeates so fast, right? And that's, again, just leaving a legacy and teaching the next generation. So again, you've explained that beautifully. You had mentioned there, and this can be a quick answer because you pretty much already explained it, but what was just the biggest thing about COVID and why you kind of lost yourself in a sense?
The overwhelming dimensions of it were something that at least my generation of physicians and healthcare practitioners had never dealt with. I worked in a hallway that had 33 patients that was reconstructed with wood and sheeting, where you had to dress with goggles and PPE. I mean, it was just, and at times it was like walking around blind, nothing in my emotional tool bag, my medical tool bag, or my personal tool bag was an answer to this overwhelming devastation. I don't want this to come across dramatic, and I don't want it to come across as a woe story. But I never had a week like the first week in January of 2021 where I lost so many people and I lost my dad. Okay. This is burnout. It was burnout pure and simple. People were working, you and I talked 2 weeks ago, I was moaning about how hard it was to do 12-hour shifts. And that was actually a piece of cake compared to working around the clock, worrying whether I was going to come down with something on top of that, et cetera. I don't know how to make it more graphic. I really don't want to. All I know is it took everything out of me. Okay. And it took everything, including the lives of some of the people that I work with. I can't say it any better than that without being a drama person.
No, right. But it hit hard mentally. And that just started to, affect your health in every way, right? Because of what was going on and because of the magnitude of everything that was happening. And again, that when your mental health gets affected, everything else starts to fall as well with it because it all starts in the mind.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, like you said, when we came into this and started working together, that's what you wanted, is just to get back to that version of yourself pre-COVID, before all of that happened, and get to that version of yourself again. How did it feel, when of course we started to have just real structure, right? Of course, you've been, very active your whole life. How did it feel, and how was it different to have real just structure and know exactly what to do next to get X result?
Well, it's something I just thought of on the last. The reality was I came to you because I wanted to lose 21 pounds.
Right.
Okay. For someone that never had 21 pounds extra in their entire life, and what I weighed when, I mean, all the way back to like college and med school days. That was, you're right. That was a physical weight. It was holding me back physically. It virtually smashed the triad of workout issues that we all look to and try and fulfill, the sleep, the nutrition, and the exercise.
Yep.
So just reform your question once more for me.
Again, you've been healthy, you've been active your whole life, right? So that you have to run and that burns calories, basic health and fitness knowledge. But what was just a big factor in like, wow, it feels great to have structure, of course, after we started working together. And I told you, Mike, this is how we're going to work out. This is how you should pair it with your running. This is what we're going to eat. This is how much we need to sleep. How did it feel to finally just have real structure and you knew you were going to get X result?
I think that's the positivity. That's the motivation that moves you through this. What happened is the best analogy is, again, we started to remove blinders. I came to you at a point where I didn't see much except being burnt out and the despair of the situation that we had just come through. Okay. What happens? You bring the stability, you bring the benchmarks of my prior life start to reemerge on a day-to-day basis. Okay. You got me back in the gym.
Yep.
We tuned up my form skills. Okay. It's kind of, in each of these areas, my sleep got better. My nutrition definitely got much better. Okay. And that it rolls over itself. I mean, it's continuing, it's reinforcing. And I think the biggest thing that I could equate with what I can say to you then and still, you put the wind in my sails, is that my energy started to come back. And when that energy came back, you and I had figured out how to focus that and to recover those things that I wanted to recover. Now but at the same time, I was still myopic.
Yep.
For 6 to 8 months, I fed on that increased energy. I fed on that structure, which is like, hey, your life is coming back to you. And it actually did. But at some point, the entire mindset just stepped up one because, like I said, we saw a new horizon. We set another set of goals. You were pumping the enthusiasm for age is just a number. You know, I don't know how better to say it. It was like a whole set of possibilities opened up again. And see, that's what the pandemic took away. And before the pandemic, I had good vision, I had good drive. I thrived on being able to do what I could do, despite what people think about ageism. And the pandemic kind of, you know, it tunnels you forward. You see less and less. You get more focused on the negative, etc. And what we did is we reversed that.
Yeah.
We just took the blinders away. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, like you said, you know, you kind of came into this with, I mean, kind of two important goals, right? Get to the person you were before COVID, and you wanted to lose, like you said, a specific amount of weight. We definitely surpassed those goals and expectations very quickly, like you said. And so at that point, you know, you didn't want to just say, okay, you know, I lost these 21, 22 pounds, whatever it was, we lost the weight. It's not like you were just content. Like that's all you wanted. You saw what you were capable of in a specific amount of time. And I remember you're like, what should we go for next? Right? You wanted just to keep on going because we had so much momentum. And so, like you said, you know, we made new goals and we achieved those, and we just kept on making new goals. And that's why we're still working together for so long, right? Because you just continue to make new goals and achieve them, and you just want more in the best way possible. Again, you know, we started making crazy progress. You started to have more energy, like you said, focus, clarity. How did the improvement of your health start to begin to impact your life professionally, right? In the classroom and everything like that.
In the classroom, and you'll recall, the students were probably the earliest version of seeing changes and reinforcing those changes and wondering what was going on, and kind of becoming, part of my accountability that way.
Yeah.
And it was a particularly gratifying time because I felt I was making real progress on the teaching side. On the medical side, there was some initial resistance to my newfound wish to have some private time to hit the gym, etc. But that's all administrative, you know, within either my private practice or with my relationship with patients. Patients noticed, though, those that had known me, you know, that I followed before the pandemic and weren't as scathed by it, noticed a significant mood increase, a significant kind of like joy come back. I was a happier person, and that makes it easier to share. It makes it easier to relate to them, etc. Because not so much on the student side, but on the medical side, that relationship with an individual, you call them clients, I call them patients, and it just depends on the model we're working in. That is the medical side is a much more demanding and critical kind of relationship with the person. And the more I can put a positive mindset of my own into that person, the better the chances are for them to be making some kind of improvement. Because you've got people that are really wounded. Yeah, exactly.
Another great question that I can't wait to hear the answer is what stood out to you about my approach, right? Because I mean, let's be honest, you're an incredibly smart person. Again, you're in the medical world, you're a professor. You obviously know a lot about health and fitness and performance and how important it is to take care of your body. But again, what potentially were the biggest things that stood out to you about just my approach when working with you and improving your health?
All right. We live in two different educational worlds, okay? And if you haven't noticed, I have been trying to meld more of your approach, particularly on the medical side. The big difference on the medical side for me is that I was trained in, and what I do is to intervene in the disease process. You're doing wellness, but you're doing wellness from a different model, from a different viewpoint, okay? So what did you bring to the table? The number one and the simplest answer for this is not that you have to know as much as I do or you have to know about the disease model. But the biggest thing I get from you and from our community is accountability.
Mhm.
Okay. The second biggest thing that I get is this drive, this striving. Okay. And we've talked multiple times about you can't imitate somebody else, or you can't be somebody else. You can't get somebody else's results, but you can catch on to the fire that that person has, the drive that that person has, the likeness, the similarities that we have as a legacy community that push each of us. Okay, so what did you bring? You brought a fresh viewpoint that was completely fitness and wellness oriented. I've been trained in a disease model. I'm not saying that's wrong. Okay, but I'm also saying one of the things that's always sat in the back of my mind, and the best example of it is where we've all arrived lately in legacy with these positivity wellness metrics. Okay. And you know, and I know, and the audience to this video doesn't know, that is transforming my practice. I'm pulling more away from what I've done traditionally and imitating, reproducing, doing what you do with us, with the older generation in rehabilitation services that I have access to. Yeah, I can know a lot.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me be very blunt. I didn't know enough to walk out of my own despair. That's what I'm thanking you for. Okay. Because whether you know it or not, whether you have a physician's license or not, whether you have a counselor's license or not, something we've both said numerous times, we don't know how our paths, why they crossed, but we do know there was intention there, and that allegiance, that alliance, worked in such a positive way.
Yeah.
That's what is important. It isn't important how much I know, and I'm just sold on what you're doing, what you've helped me to clarify. I don't know what to say. It just, and it's still going. That's the thing that amazes me the most, is that there is every reason to believe that I'm going to, at 73, as you keep pointing out, chiseling away, I'm going to change my practice, my medical practice, from disease model. That's still important because people have to get well and they have to have a better set of legs to stand on. I mean that literally and metaphorically. But there's so much we can be offering people. There's so much impact we can bring if they learn these basic things that you and I know in common. So licenses are important, but that's no wall between us. That never has been. And if there was, I would kick the first or the second brick away. Mm-hmm. So it just doesn't make any difference. Yeah. You, and like I said, I don't know how it happened. You don't know how it happened, but we met long before you've been on this journey. I can't help but believe at some point, if you think back all the way to the school model, SKOL, the old days, you didn't see this. You didn't see today, but it's happened. That's the important thing. That's the magic. That's what this energy can do for a person. That's what being disciplined and striving to have an impact on others can provide.
Yeah.
I can't say more.
Yeah. Yeah. And you touched on it a little bit, right? So before I was a, one-on-one health and performance coach, I first off just started with a fitness community, right? I was 17, 18 years old. I wanted to kind of get into entrepreneurship. I loved working out. So I was like, let's try this out. So it was on School. I'm pretty sure people are familiar with this. Alex Hormozy is a co-owner of this, right? SKOOL. And Mike was in this fitness community. And then one day he's like, do you offer something more personalized, something that's not just learning from a video, right? And I was like, I've never done this before, but I could see myself doing that. Let's try it out. And we did it. And so my initial goal with all of it, going into this one-on-one sort of coaching aspect, was to keep things just as simple as possible, right? There's so many things you can think about, but why not just focus on the basic inputs that you can give each day, and you'll always just get X result, right? Getting a little bit better each and every day. So again, we started working together. We focused on the workouts, obviously the sleep, the nutrition, and you've seen how my business has had the iterations to what it is now, and how I've grown as a person, as a business owner, and everything. Now we're focusing not just on, losing body fat, growing muscle mass, but about being functional, growing and gaining functional strength, right? Mobility, stretching, making sure that you're feeling amazing while looking amazing. Because I say it all the time, again, if you focus on the basic inputs, you're always going to have a great physique. You're always going to look great because you're doing the bare minimum and what it needs to take. So now, obviously, the most recent iteration with my business is now focusing on, amazing health metrics, the HRV, the VO2 max, the resting heart rate, deep sleep, just getting into the nitty-gritty stuff, because this is like so interesting now to focus on, and is where true performance derives from, right? Not just from going to the gym every day. A lot of people watching this, I bet you go to the gym every single day right now, or, consistently each week. I bet you have a relatively, good diet, and you try to get at least 8 hours of sleep at night. But if we check your metrics, I bet they're off. And if we focus on those, everything else is going to improve, because that's where it starts, and the internal health metrics. So that was a long way to get to the question, but what has been your favorite part of what you have learned when working with me?
My zeal has come back. Zeal. It's. I don't know. I've come alive.
Yep.
All right. It wasn't 38 years. Oh my gosh, I've got 12 patients and I've got 8 hours today anymore. It was like, again, to take off blinders and to see the possibilities of the future, and to have, I guess, the mental confidence that what you and I have done together, I can see so far beyond everything that I wanted to fix. It's not what needs to be fixed anymore. It's like, where can this go? And that's the important thing to me. Me rediscovered whatever goals I had originally, whatever discipline I had originally, whatever dream I had originally, has come back to life.
Yeah.
It's I've been doing. You were well aware before we met. I had been a gym rat for a long time.
Yeah.
But the interesting thing is, not so much on the teaching side, but it has benefits to teaching. But on the medical side, your emphasis on people, on what you call athleticism, there were seeds of the future that were sown so far back that are so important and show up every day, but they just show up automatically now, and that's what's good. I have the things in my toolbox that I used to be able to access and use, and I have new things and the possibility of more.
Yeah.
And the possibility of more never crossed my mind when I said, "Who's this kid that that has some parallels to me?" Particularly with like the want for physical change, the want to be recognized within a peer group, the drive, the competition were so important to you, and they transformed you. That's the same way for me.
I'm gonna say it again, 73 years old. Mike actually has a 43-year-old metabolic age, right? And for those of you who don't know, again, 73-year-olds chronologically, but metabolically, how his body is performing and functioning at a basic, average 43-year-old, which is just crazy, incredible to think about, right? Very efficient with his metabolism and, again, overall bodily functions. How do you think, and I'm not gonna take 100% credit of that, of bringing that metabolic age that low, right? You've done so much, obviously, for yourself. I've just kind of like you said, put the wind back in the sails, and everything that you've created, I've kind of just made the slight adjustments. But being so basically having the great health you do now, if you can just pinpoint one thing that has allowed you to perform better professionally, medically, and in the classroom, what would you say it is? Energy, mental clarity, or just overall, just better performance at what you do?
Well, I think energy is probably a good explanation, but energy leaves out the whole mental and mindset. The truth is, the physical change in me at 73 is significant. People 55 and older start to lose muscle mass, and there's this whole cascade of things that begin to happen. And kind of the big landmark that from people that work in on the medical side and the healthcare side is that, boy, once you fall the first time, the die's cast. Okay? what did we do? And yes, in this sense, you did have a good, because you taught me a new way of thinking on the medical side, and the benefits are I'm sharing that with new generations of medical students. What's the example? Who's the one that came to me and said 1 gram per pound of body weight protein intake? Okay. Okay. You. Who's the one that came to you a week later and said, some of my own primary physician's hair fell out because he said, no, no, not at your age. Okay. You and I had a goal. That goal not only worked, and what I wish is I had a DEXA before we started all this so that I had a comparison, but I didn't just regain skeletal and body muscle mass. I reversed sarcopenia completely, the metabolic, the muscle loss. Okay. Physiologically, I'm a new person. I'm not reborn, but that's where metabolic age is important. And I'm not going to, the numbers, let's leave the numbers aside. And actually, let's leave 73 aside. But the point is, when you get progressively older, there are significant things you can do if you have a proper mental set to ensure that you will remain productive, able to make an impact on a day-to-day basis, and to enjoy the life, the profession that you have for longer than like a mandatory 55 or 60 retirement. And, oh, I've got to take it easy. I got to take a nap every day. Well, the truth is I still take a nap sometimes, but this has never been about the look for me. I understand it's about, in part, look for a lot of the people that are in this community that you have. And that's important for them because their mindsets can be different. But what has opened up because of my physical transformation, my health transformation, is the paramount thing that's important.
Yeah.
And it's not only important because it transformed me. It's important, as you know, because it is transforming how I deal with the people that I have to help every day. Okay. You don't have to, I know a 91-year-old patient that can do a 6-minute plank. Give me a break. So, yeah.
Yeah. And I think you transition this into, my next question. Like, what would you say to someone who thinks that, overall decline as we age is just part of the process and that, they can't really do anything about that? What would you say to a person in that mindset?
I would tell them that 18 years of education, 18 years of training, the model that was put out, the disease model, while it's correct, is not the answer. It wasn't the answer. We are discovering the answer day to day. The best way to describe that change is that you move from what you can't do and why you can't do it. Okay. Kind of like Alzheimer's. All right, we know you've got it, but there's not really much I can do to put a set of brakes on it.
Mm-hmm.
That things are changing to where there are decisions you can make when you're 20, when you're 30, when you're 40, when you're 50, and you've seen this segmental difference between all the people that we have in your legacy community. You've seen where they are and what their vision is for that age. And I'm saying, if I can learn to take those blinders away, that 40 isn't holding you back more than 30 held you back. You see what I'm saying?
Yep.
It doesn't have to be. And we're going to produce a generation that is more focused on wellness than on the terminal aspects and nature of aging.
Mm-hmm.
Ageism is really, it does not need to be the limitation that we make it out to be.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be. Yeah.
I'm kind of thinking about how to frame this question, but you kind of mentioned it a little bit about the protein, how I told you that kind of 1 gram per pound, and that someone told you that you can't do that at your age, right? It's not going to be safe. And we kind of went along with that for a minute there. And then we kind of challenged it and saw some amazing results. So we just kept going with it, and we found out that it was okay, right? But again, in terms of like other health facts kind of like that, what were kind of some that were debunked after working with me, like maybe another about creatine or something like that? What about your past knowledge was changed after coming to work with me?
I think I still have a healthy respect for the numeric, the value side of the medical course.
Hmm.
But I've come to see I can't come. Oh man, thank you, Ben. I can't come across as saying don't listen to your family doctor. Because you really do need to listen, and they have your best care upward in their mind. I mean, we all swear first do no harm, okay? But there is more room to maneuver if you find a primary care practitioner that is more wellness oriented. But I thought ended up teaching a colleague just like you taught me. Look at it in a broader sense and see what works with you. Okay. And that's something you have honed into me. Listen to your body, listen to your body. That I can't believe you had to teach a physician, listen to your body. I mean, you don't have a client that's more lab related and scan related than I've been. But on the other hand, what that has taught me, that's the gold nugget that I can turn around and pass on both to the students and to patients.
I love it. And I've just got one more question for you, right? I mean, obviously, I make videos, and say someone comes across my content, they're interested in what I do, and they look and see, oh, Michael, right? Michael was a client of Ben's. I'm gonna ask him kind of what it's been like to work with Ben, right? So he asks you, and I want to know, and kind of want to hear you describe very, I mean, there's a lot of ways to think about it, right? But as concise as you can be, describe what it's been like working with me.
Fluid, dynamic, or challenging, and that may be because of my personality trait, but you have dangled little pieces of motivation out at various times, whether it was a physical activity or whatever. That's something that has made it really easy to interact on a fundamental basis. You are not judgmental. You are not you're not big on the guilt that people that need to work with you have been carrying around for a long time. For a student athlete, where you find the time for this and the time for each of us, either as an individual or a community, is gratifying. I don't know many people, and some about my students, at least the ones that I think are doing well. That manage and share their time as effectively as you do.
Yeah.
The interactions are always personal. There's generally like 99.9999 positivity. You don't look at it. I think one of your real strengths is that you're good at helping people reframe what they see as failing. Okay? That's something that's going to serve you in what you're doing now and in what you're doing every day into the future, because you're helping them. We're getting back to that metaphor again, to remove the blinder, to stop, I'm stuck here and I'm never going to get out, and to help move them forward. And I think indeed, if I think about, and I'm not going to mention individual cases, but if I think about the people that you and I both know that are in and have been through this, the bond is really motivating.
Yeah.
And some of them have really been on thin ice, and you have a strength at taking their being fixated on that they're on thin ice, and that they've got something, they've got a hand to reach out to. They just come with so many variabilities or vulnerabilities, and you don't erase them. You don't say they don't exist, but you say, this is how we deal with them. This is how you can reduce that number of vulnerabilities. And I don't know, you're a caregiver. And in every family, there's usually, if you have a couple brothers and sisters, there's one kid that turns out to be the caregiver. Well, you've turned out to be the caregiver for a small community, your extra family. And we more than appreciate that. I mean, you know it. Look how many of us are after your time.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I appreciate it, right? And it's I tell you guys all the time, it's just doing what I love, right? As you said, college student, soccer player, what I do as a business owner, and I try to go home every weekend. You know, it's a lot of things going on, but it's everything that I want to be doing. So it doesn't even feel like work. And again, I just love what I do every day. So quick,
For you, it isn't work.
yeah, exactly.
That's what's important. And how do I know that? What have you said every time, whether we've been talking about creatine, we've been talking about protein, we've been talking about the metabolic age? And it's not just weekends, your family tied weekends, I understand that. Who do you always talk with and say, hey, dad, you can be doing this, you can, your dad is not a client.
Hmm.
That is you.
Yeah,
That is your personality. That is how you connect. And what you've done is you've taken that from family. And like you say, that we're the legacy family. And you definitely treat us that way. That's you. Yeah.
exactly. Yeah. And like I said, man, I appreciate it, and I appreciate you sharing all these experiences, with me and everybody on here today. Just a quick conclusion, right? Like I said, I cannot believe it every time I say it, but 73 years old, metabolic age of 43, 182 pounds, 6 feet tall, 8.8% body fat, and all you do professionally, like it's just incredible. You make me excited to keep on aging, if that makes sense. And I hope to be even close to your level when I'm 73 years old and close to your age. So again, thank you for sharing all these experiences, answering my questions, and sharing it with all these people today, man.
Yeah. Thank you, Ben. And I'm going to put this out for newbies. Talk to this young man for 5 minutes and you will sell yourself. This is not a social influencer. This is not an internet phenom. This is somebody who has a care, who has a passion, and is willing to share it. And he shares everything that he shares with family and more with all of us, his other family.
I appreciate it, Mike.
Yep.